We are live. We are live on the Believe in Monsters podcast. Another week talking Chicago Bears. We are getting you through your off season. Thanks for hanging in there with us on the Believe in Monsters podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at BIM_pod. Please go ahead and do that. Give us a follow, maybe retweet one of our polls, this, that, or the other. You can find us on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We appreciate the Believe Network for putting us on each and every week. Bill Gaither, Chris Krogman, and Lucas Berry here to get you through your offseason. We are a week closer to the NFL draft, so we're going to talk about a little kind of forecasting some of the NFL draft after now 2 weeks of NFL free agency. Well, really one, but 2 weeks when you include the tampering period. 2 weeks of NFL free agency. The Bears have made a couple of more moves since the last time we spoke. We said goodbye to David Montgomery. We welcomed in a new running back, and we received a tight end from the enemy, from the dark side. So we're rescuing a player from we're saving someone's soul. We're going to talk about that this week. Before we get into any of that, though, Father Krogman, how are you doing?
Living the dream.
Oh man, that is the typical white man answer. That means like you're living in hell. Have you had a bad week?
No, you know what's funny is I actually heard a comeback to that joke, because like you said, it's the typical, I guess, white man answer. I didn't know that was a racial thing, but sure, we'll go with that. I said that to a buddy of mine, and he said, well, Chris, you need to dream bigger then. I was like, all right. That's fucking hilarious because, yeah, if I'm living the dream, I guess I'm not dreaming big enough.
Lucas, are we in your dreams, or
I'm living the dream.
Nightmare off season.
I'm living the dream. No, it is. Everything is good. Bears fans are typical back and forth up until the draft. So this is going to be a fun period, especially after the draft if they don't get who they want. So we will see. But the Bears definitely did leave some bigger roster holes open in free agency. But obviously Ryan Poles has told us he wants to build through the draft, and that's what he's going to do. He's not going to pay guys top dollar. So, Joe, why don't we dive into a few of the guys we signed to very minimal deals? I think all of them actually are very team-friendly, good deals for the Bears. Joe, what do we got since we last talked?
Well, we signed a running back. We signed a running back, former Tennessee Titans running back. Help me with it. Damian Pierce.
Donta Foreman. I don't think it's – is it Deonta or Donta?
Donta Foreman.
That's how you pronounce it?
Donta Foreman.
What, Chris? I'm trying to get the guy's name right.
I'm saying I don't know. I'm shunning myself. I don't have a clue how to say.
I thought you were making fun of me because I've heard people say Donta, Deonta, Deontay. I think it's Donta Foreman.
I think it's Donta Foreman. I don't know, man.
Well, Joe, you're right. It is funny you mentioned he was on the Titans because he's also on our new favorite team, or one of our favorite teams, the Panthers, is where he came from last year, where he had a breakout year, right? He suffered a couple bad injuries early in his career, and last year
he was with the Texans for a long time. That's why I was confusing the Damian Pierce name. He was never healthy with the Texans.
Yeah, he had two pretty major injuries. Resilient to say the least. Chris, you distract me with the pronunciation there.
Deontay.
Right.
Is the
Deontay is
the nameengine.com's favorite way to say Deontay Foreman.
All right. Perfect. There we go. Deontay Foreman. But he had a nice little year there for the Panthers last year. Interesting kind of back to bring in, I think. A good replacement for Montgomery on a cheap deal. He doesn't really catch the ball. So now we have two running backs that don't do that. So at the moment, I guess Travis Homer is our de facto third down back, which is fine. It's just interesting, in my opinion.
Well, that won't last.
You think they'll draft someone?
He's also 6'2", 235.
Oh,
I mean,
Big dude.
he's a tank.
He's a big old.
Dude, so
Yeah,
He's fast.
He's there to get that short yardage, and he's a dog too. He likes to fight.
I think he's going to do well in his own blocking scheme.
I think so too. Honestly, like I said, in college, Joe, you're the college football guy. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he have like an 1,800-yard season at Texas rushing or something like that? Or was it 2,000? Like he had an insane college season. When
In
you're at Texas,
2013, he rushed for 2,100 yards and 31 touchdowns.
Yeah,
at Texas.
That's insane. What year was that?
Oh no, excuse me. That's his. No. In 2016, excuse me. Those are high school numbers. In 2016 at Texas, he rushed for 2,028 yards and 15 touchdowns. So he was a high school sensation out of Texas City, Texas, and then obviously went to the hometown school. Drafted in the third round by Houston Texans, so he stays home. And then obviously we've covered the injury. He goes to the Colts, bounces around a bunch of practice squads with the Titans for a little bit during Derrick Henry's injury in the 2020 season. And then you spent 22 with the Panthers. So last year with the Panthers, 900 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground on 200 carries. So averaging 4.5 yards a carry. And like you said, not really a passing threat, a receiving threat. Only 5 receptions all year last year.
Yeah, still pretty crazy. I think he's a good value for the Bears. Chris, what do you got? What do you got on our friend Foreman?
Tank, dude. I freaking love this dude.
Yeah, he plays with a lot of heart and effort. It's a good replacement for Montgomery because you're not gonna slip off on the level of effort that he'll be giving you.
You know what? He fits the Panthers like historical style of back. Like Jonathan Stewart and whoever else was with him at the time, the kid from Memphis, helped Joe. Anyway,
Williams.
Yeah, D'Angelo Williams. Thank you. Just that short, stocky, burly. Actually, Deontay Foreman is not short. He's 6 foot tall, so he's a tank though. I like the signing quite a bit as a 1 year deal. Running backs are a dime a dozen, no matter what Raul says. So go out and just find one that'll do some stuff.
Yeah, I think the 1 year deal kind of lets me know though that like the Bears will possibly still draft one if they only have this guy on the hook for 1 year. Whatever. I mean, they might have four backs on the roster. So, because honestly, on a deal like this, at how young he is, I don't know. I was maybe expecting a 2 or 3 year deal for him, but this will do.
He really had the one good year in the league. I mean, he had 21 where he did okay, replacing Derrick Henry for just a little bit. And he proved he could be healthy. Now, last year he was, he played all 17 games. He started in 9 of them. His first time being healthy for a full season. Goodness gracious, since he was in college. So, I think that's the reason we see a 1 year deal. His health has been very questionable through his whole career.
That's right. I forgot he backed up Derrick Henry and basically looked like a different jersey was put on Derrick Henry.
Yeah, a little mini Henry.
I don't remember him on the Titans at all. That's funny though.
That's what I was thinking of. Not necessarily. I mean, he does remind me of the Panthers backs, but I specifically like he's a large human being.
Yeah, Henry got hurt at the end of that year, Luke, and he came in.
Man, you were just a wealth of knowledge, and I love it. Let's jump to the other running back since Lucas already kind of touched on him, and what I want to kind of talk about since we're in the running back room, and Lucas, you touched on Foreman having a 1 year deal. They brought in Homer. He might even be the punt returner at this point. So you have Herbert, Foreman, Homer are the obvious. I mean, then you have Evans and Ebner. Who does this spell the end for if they're going to draft somebody?
My
Is it
Tristan
both
Ebner.
those guys?
Tristan Ebner, at least, for sure.
Yeah, I think both of them.
Man, Ebner
forgot-
might be a practice squad guy. He was so trash last year.
Sure.
I think they could easily hide that dude.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty much a special teamer. They took a late round flyer on, but I mean, they have 10 picks this year. It's going to be hard to use 10 picks on all positions of need, quote unquote. So I think they'll probably just try and draft another mid round running back and let them fight it out in camp.
I agree. I think a lot of those back end picks are going to be dart throws or special teams people, or guys that are I like that Pace took the dart throws on guys that had gotten hurt in college but were studs before that, or for whatever reason had
an issue.
Yeah, an issue. And if you took a shot on him, then no big deal. Like, who was the quarterback that I think the Broncos took that was stumbling into people's houses drunk, but he was like a baller before that?
Paxton Lynch?
No, say it, Joe.
Chad Kelly?
Chad Kelly. Yep. Yeah, Jim Kelly's kid or whatever.
Chad Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Homer's interesting though. I mean, he's a tremendous pass blocking back, which the Bears really did. I mean, Monty was pretty good last year, but I think Homer's known to be, one of the best pass blockers in the league at running back. And then obviously he's a valuable third down threat out of the backfield at wide receiver. And as Chris alluded to, can return punts. So Bears get a versatile kind of, I don't know, Joe. I wouldn't call it a
tweener kind of.
Yeah, I mean he's just like a solid player that'll play on special teams and do the dirty work for. I don't really know how to classify it.
You'll probably be able to use him just a little bit as that, swing back, just in like really gadgety formations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say gadget, but I was like, I don't know if he's really a gadget as much as he is just whatever.
Well, he's not really going to be a 3-down running back. He's not really going to be a pass catching specialist, but he might from time to time. I expect the guy we draft is going to have some pass catching ability, and it's going to be worth his salt. And pass protection at least a little bit. Goodness gracious, you hope. And I expect you see Travis Homer mostly on special teams, very limited on offense.
Both these guys that we just alluded to, very young, by the way. I don't have their ages right in front of me, but Chris, do you have anything else on Travis Homer?
Homer is 24. Foreman's
only 24?
26. Yeah.
Where are they finding these dudes that I feel like Homer's been in the league for so many years already?
Yeah. Thoughts on Homer? Good special teamer. I think somebody was saying they thought he had a chance to contribute to the offense out of the backfield. We'll see. That Seattle backfield has been a wide spot for so long that he should have been more of a deal if he was going to be a deal. That's my thought on Travis Homer. Yep.
Who is our next free agent signing?
Robert Tonyan.
Oh, we're going to go there? All right.
Oh, never mind. We can go where we want.
No, you're good. We'll stay on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, we're loading up for Justin Fields. Robert Tonyan gets signed for a 1-year deal with the Bears, and we know him as a former Green Bay Packer. Oh, I need to wash my mouth out with soap. He was with that team up north, drafted up there. Was that right? No, he was he's not. He's an undrafted guy. Yeah, in 2017, he joined the Detroit Lions. So he's very familiar with our division. He joined the Lions. They signed him a 3-year deal as a UDFA, and then they cut him before the 17th season started. He's been with the Packers ever since. He played in the last 4 games of 2017, and the Packers kind of picked him up and have done what they've done with him. Now, he's been with the Packers. But
what have they done with him, Joe?
Last year, he actually got some action. He got 8 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown. No, that was in the postseason. No, this past year, he had 53 receptions, 470 yards. I thought that was sounding rough. 53 receptions, big breakout, 470 and 2 touchdowns. Nothing
His big
like,
year was 2 years ago.
Yep, 2020 season, he got in the end zone 11 times. Pretty much the same amount of receptions, 52 receptions versus 53. And
I don't know why. I remember that year, like watching every game on national TV. That guy would like dominate, and I would be like, "Why can no one cover Robert Tonyan?" It was like
It's the hair,
uncoverable.
man. It's the hair.
I don't know.
It's
He
the
had that
scheme
ridiculous
fit.
season.
So
It's the scheme fit.
there are those on. Oh, Joe, I'll kill you. There are those on Twitter that will tell you that drops don't matter. You know who you are if you listen to this show, Mr. Schultz. But Robert Tonyan doesn't drop balls ever. Like, I think he went the entire season or 2 seasons ago without dropping a single pass.
That's what we need. I mean, that's going to be it's going to be interesting. I mean, a cool dynamic with him and Cole Kmet. Be able to run a lot of 12 personnel with those two out there. And much like
a great fit, Chris.
He is a great scheme fit, but Bears Twitter needs to jump off a bridge with that shit.
And he was a Bears fan growing up. Another one.
So,
seems like Ryan Poles loves Bears, ex-Bears fans.
Yeah. So the
do we have
guys
to put him through like one of those processes like they do with biker gangs where you gotta like scrape the tattoo off his back, the Packers all
Oh my God.
you just gotta like fillet Robert Tonyan so he can like regrow fresh skin and get all that Packers junk out of him.
This is not the Hannibal Lecter podcast, Joe Gaither.
Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to figure out ways we can cleanse him from.
If he was already a Bears fan, maybe he was just doing the dirty work in enemy territory. Maybe he's a rat.
Good. We accept that answer.
Chris, you were saying the scheme fit. The scheme fit.
No, I was going to say, there's the Bears have they carried 4 tight ends last year. So now you got Kmet, you got Tonyan, Ryan Griffin, Jake Tungus, Chase Allen, and Trevon Wesco.
Yeah, Wesco was interesting when he came in
to battle it
last
out
year
for a few spots. Yeah.
I think this is like running back, though. I think they'll take one in the draft.
Isn't it a really deep position at tight end?
Yeah, it is. But I think, like I said, I think with all these 1-year deals, I mean, I think they're just hoping these guys come in and kind of are a stopgap, but makes me wonder if they're lining up replacements for them down the line. We will, I guess we'll see in the draft, but that's just how I'm thinking about it.
Well, I think the Deontay Foreman move 100% signifies that we're going to target running back in the draft, but I don't think it means we're going to target it early. I just think that it's going to be like on that position, on that needs list.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, when we get to that place where we find a good running back we like, the right value, boom, we're going to snag him.
But what about tight end?
Tight end, I can see the same because you need to get fresher at that position. I mean, we love the Golden Dumber, Cole Kmet, but you probably just need to get a second tight end in the pipe who's really kind of – because think about what you've had at tight end pre-Cole Kmet and post – and since you've gotten him, like really pre-Cole Kmet was – Burton was a transplant. Trey Burton was a transplant from another franchise. So you want to draft another. You want to get another tight end. I think to really be another homegrown guy.
We shall see. Chris. Frozen. There you are. I see you now. You were frozen in space.
Yeah, my internet's freaking out over here. Yeah, that's me. We are. Yeah, we are moving on. We're on to another position. Fuck Robert Tonyan.
Perfect.
We'll continue to rock the offensive side of the ball before we dip over the defensive side of the ball. Another former Panther and DJ Moore's favorite career reviver, PJ Walker. Don't call me Texas Ranger. But PJ Walker. Justin Fields light. Poor man's Justin Fields. Not Trevor Siemian.
Yeah. Interesting. XFL passing the yards leader in 2020, if that means anything to you. But, only thrown 5 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in the NFL. Basically been Mr. Backup man.
Last year he played well enough to earn a spot in the league. So
he started 5 games last year.
Yep. He had that Hail Mary versus the Falcons that Chris talked about. I think, Chris, hasn't this been your dream for a few years that we get Fields a backup who's similar play style? I know one of you two has been talking about this for a long time. I think it was you, Chris.
I mean, a long time is not
2
very
years.
long.
Well, I feel like it's been like the past 2 years.
Yeah. No, all I said was the kid from UCLA. I thought we should take.
Right. I just mean that idea has been in your head for a few years.
I mean, you're
absolutely right.
You might as well not have to change the offense that much if you're going to have a backup quarterback. But yeah, I think PJ Walker fits that mold.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good signing too. I think it's a guy that could, I think he could step in and win you. Like if Trevor Siemian came in, I don't think the Bears would win. If they had built a decent roster this year, I think PJ Walker could come in and win them a game if he had to. Which just makes me happy inside that.
Well, who's gonna protect him though?
Travis Homer. We signed him to play right tackle. Biggest steal.
He's gonna get sacked 60 times.
Paris Johnson.
We'll get to that soon.
We signed a guard last week. Come on, guys. We signed a guard last week. All is fixed.
Peter Skoronsky, not a guard with his T-Rex arms. All right, PJ Walker, not that exciting.
Well, PJ can run just like
and he has a cannon and he has a YOLO attitude. That's what the Panthers guy was saying on Hogan Johns today. He said PJ Walker he fucking wants to make every play and he'll throw across his body and do crazy things.
That XFL season was good. I mean, he was solid. It was fun, and he was pretty much, I think, the only guy to get picked up and make something out of that. So
I'm not even making fun of that. Like if you're a backup and you can play with some balls, I kind of love that. instead of trying to just win playing small ball.
Just trying to stay within the offense and take what the defense gives you. Just want YOLO balls.
Instead of the Chase Daniel offense, I'd rather have YOLO balls for sure.
Chase Claypool offense, just chuck it up and see if he can body catch it.
Do you remember when Chase Daniel would come in when Trubisky was hurt? Like the most boring games of football ever. That's what I mean. Like I'd rather just have YOLO Walker out there. Chris,
what game did Siemian start? Didn't Siemian start
the Jets game?
Then he played. Yeah.
He the first series he was like 6 for 6 with a touchdown.
Yeah,
and then I think he threw a pick or something like that. Yeah. Andrew Billings, big man,
former Raider. We should have had Dennis back on to tell us just about how massive Andrew Billings is. What a huge pickup this is for the Bears.
It's just a typical run stuffing fat nose tackle.
I don't know why we got to degrade him and call him fat. He's only Dude, for he's 6'1", he's only 3'11". I mean, if he was like 340, that's a fat boy. But I
don't know if he has 3'11". I don't know if he has tree trunks for legs or it's the way he's in his stance, but when I saw the picture of him, he looks gigantic.
My man broke the Texas high school state powerlifting record once held by Mark Henry. You know Mark Henry.
Whoa, that's legit.
Now
Andrew Billings did that?
Yes, the record is set at 2,010 pounds. He set it by doing an 805-pound squat, a 500-pound bench press, and a 705-pound deadlift.
How old was he? High school?
Schooler. Power lift during high school broke Mark Henry's Texas record. That's leading.
Yeah.
That's leading his Wikipedia. Went
Well,
to Baylor.
He won't get much. He won't get much glory because he just plays an unglorious position, and he's not going to pad his stats with sacks and QB rushes and that kind of things. He's literally just there to eat up space, and he's good at it.
Who was the Samoan American that we used to have right there up the middle during the Urlacher days?
Pia?
Yes, Stephen Pia. It sounds kind of like that. Maybe not as athletic.
The NFL Combine bench press leader, Stephen Pia. Yeah, I don't know. What do you have on him, Chris? He is 28 years old, by the way, and I believe another 1-year deal.
Billings looks like a, you know what? He just looks like Armand Watts' replacement, essentially. I mean, which I thought Watts played okay last year on a shit line, but I mean, I would like to see Watts back in a rotational piece because obviously Billings. Well, he's probably not a 3-down guy, but I mean, he's been in the league for 6 years.
I mean, I think he's going to be better than what Armand Watts gave us last year. I mean, I'm not going to go out here and be like, you know, I've watched Andrew Billings that much before, but I would say the consensus is that most people think he's a pretty solid player, and the Bears got a good deal on him.
I agree.
I guess as a whole, what do you guys make of these little puzzle piece 1-year signings for like positions of need, but not like glaring positions of need? Like no one really had third down running back or nose tackle on their wish list, but there's still spots that need filled. So what do you make of it?
Nose tackle was definitely on my bingo card, but Travis Homer was not.
Robert Tonyan definitely was not for me.
I thought tight end was definitely something that we could address in free agency. I thought that there was a couple of different options. Schultz being the top option, that obviously wasn't a thing. Ingram got tagged, and then I might have mentioned Tonyan, but he was hurt last year, like just coming off of an injury last year, so I didn't think that was a phenomenal play, but I mean, for a 1-year deal. As far as overall for the 1-year deals, I think Ryan Poles called up Ryan Pace and said, "Hey man, what's your strategy?" He's like, "Oh, just shotgun a bunch of 1-year deals and see who pans out." And so that Poles said, "Yeah, man, that's a good idea. I'm just gonna go do that."
I really do think Poles is really afraid of dead cap, though. I don't know if it might take him a while. I don't know if he ever will get there, but I don't know if you're ever going to see him give out like a 4 or 5 year, you know, giant guaranteed contract. You know, at least these past 2 years, it seems he's being very cautious not to do that.
Well, I think in the middle of a rebuild, you can't go all in on somebody that you're not sure of. I mean, he gave a pretty significant deal to Tremaine Edmonds, right? Isn't that a 4-year deal?
Yeah, but he that's what I'm saying. Like his contract structure basically makes it so that he's only guaranteeing 2 years, and then the last 2 years are low salary, and the Bears could really get out of that any of these deals within 2 years, basically.
Well, it keeps his flexibility. It keeps his flexibility during the rebuild. If I sign you, or you know, the general you, it doesn't matter who, and you don't pan out, well, I'm not tied to you for 5 years, and
Right.
you're not hurting me down the line either. Even if I got rid of you, you're not hurting me on my books.
I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's just interesting. Like if you compare it to like what the Jags did last year, they kind of did the opposite. I mean, they just went all in with their spending, and you know now they have these guys on these big contracts. Granted, they panned out last year, but
yeah, what about
it's just interesting to me.
What if they spent what if they spent all off season, you know, on the beaches in Jacksonville?
They did.
Trevor Lawrence, you reading his press clippings, what if he didn't get any better this year? I'm not saying that's what happened, but if any of these guys slack off because they weren't in contract years, because now they got the money. You never know what's going to happen with that. With that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
just when Chris started talking about Pace, it kind of made me think about that. Just because I think there were some pretty bad free agent deals Pace gave out outside of the 1 year dart throws. I mean,
like a 3 or 4 year deal. You remember that first year he brought in Burton, Parkey, and Robinson, and all of them got
that 1 year. We basically all had 1 year, and then that was it.
Oh, right, but they all got deals that were like 4-year deals or like 3-year deals, and so they came in and made all the Bears fans happy for a second, and then fell off a cliff.
Well, he gave Freeman and Trevathan big deals too, right?
Yeah, we're still paying Trevathan this year.
I don't know how that's possible. I mean, is this the Bobby Bonilla contract? What's happening?
I don't know. It's still in the dead cap. I didn't believe it either until I checked, but it's there.
Unreal. Simply unreal. So that kind of wraps up the Bears free agent additions for the week. A lot of folks are kind of confused as to what the offensive line plan is, since McGlinchey wasn't signed, Taylor wasn't signed, even McGrary wasn't, whatever, it wasn't signed. Yeah, so Andre Dillard was another name people had thrown out there. None of the offensive tackles that were out there have been signed by Ryan Pace. I don't have a huge opinion either way, other than I think, Lucas, you said it last week, Poles has his number. He's going to stick to it. If they don't fit what they're trying to do. Oh, yeah, Orlando Fatboy Brown wasn't signed either. But scheme fit seems to be the hot button or the buzzword of the week. Joe touched on it earlier. And it sounds like Poles kind of said the same thing during his presser last week, right? Lucas, is that track? Does that check out?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of said it directly without mentioning his name, but when they asked him about Orlando Brown, he said, when we evaluate all the players, we have to look at how they fit our scheme.
Exactly.
Meaning Orlando Brown doesn't fit your scheme.
Well, people are trying to say, Bears Twitter is trying to say essentially that they want to go into this passing offense, this drop back passing offense, which Orlando Brown would be helpful with pass blocking. But at the heart of this offense is the running game. And that's what has been the signature Bears, that what gave us so many, successful plays last year was the running game. And Orlando Brown doesn't fit a zone running scheme and trying to get outside. And even the guys that are that are trying to pump him up are saying he's, thick and big and blah, 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 and more or less plotting. So it does line up that he doesn't fit the scheme.
Well, look at the offensive line right now. Right now, you've got Braxton Jones playing left tackle. You got Cody Whitehair. I guess you're playing Lucas Patrick. Hey Davis, you just brought in to play, I guess, guard, and then Tevin Jenkins. That's how it lines up for on our lad. But you can do a lot of things with that. Well, you can move Jenkins in for Whitehair and dump in. You've also got your backups. Doug Kramer is coming off an ACL, who showed some promise, but you're coming off an ACL as a 6th-round draft pick. Alex Leatherwood, former 1st-round draft pick, is sitting there as a 6th, 7th kind of guy who could end up playing a guard or a tackle position. You've got versatility. You've got options with the guys you currently have on the roster. Bears fans are just impatient and want to spend money at it. Just throw money at a problem. Okay, you could have gotten McGlinchey. Luke hit on that a lot last week, how you'd be paying that guy till he's old. You may not want to do that. I've been in the we don't want to pay Orlando Brown camp. You're probably going to end up going to draft another one, between 1 and 4 offensive linemen in this draft. Probably. You're probably going to go sign one or two other offensive line offensive line depth pieces as free agency continues to shake out. But it's not going to be, like we're signing Orlando Pace, we're signing, somebody that's going to come in here and be an all pro right, but you could draft that at number 9. You could. Now it'd have to be a hit, and what's your success rate there? And that's up for grabs. But you look at the line right now. Yeah, you just upgraded by bringing in Nate Davis. Lucas Patrick allegedly gets a full season healthy. We all kind of have our opinions on him, but he gets healthy for a whole season. He's not dealing with a daggum thumb injury or ankle injury or whatever he's been dealing with. Cody Whitehair gets another year. The line isn't going to be – I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be good, but what you currently have is not the end of the world.
No, and I think something, too, that people are missing is, they don't trust a rookie starting, but, people say, oh, Braxton Jones isn't – you can't really point to him. It's not fair to say a fifth-round pick is going to come out and do that, blah, 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 whatever. But my thing is the Bears this year have 7 picks in the top 137, which is a lot of ammo with fairly high draft picks. I mean,
yeah,
that's basically 6 picks in the first 4 rounds. And in the first 4 rounds, I think you'll be able to find starting quality talent. I mean, why do people not think that Poles won't do what he did last year, except in earlier rounds this year? Even if he doesn't take, let's say he doesn't take a lineman at 9, but he uses his next 3 or 4 picks on O-line and D-line. Like, why? I don't understand why people would be upset with that idea, or I don't know. Like, my big thing is you really have to weigh how much they're making, how many years you have them versus if you signed Mike McGlinchey or whatever. Right. So you have to weigh those two against each other and your odds of hitting. Now, here's the thing. This is the path he's going down. He wants to be a drafting GM. So, okay, I think it's going to be fair to criticize his draft choices if these guys completely suck and get the quarterback killed. But that's a different story to be had down the road with context involved with what's happening.
But evaluate his last class. Which was his first class.
Right.
Now with
I think it was solid.
Yes.
And that's why I'm saying
for not having a first round pick, and people are complaining about the 2 seconds, and of course they're complaining about Velus Jones.
Yeah, I don't love the Velus Jones.
Man, for a first year GM, for a first year in the building, not setting up his own guys, like now he has his own guys, it's his own system. Everybody's pulling in the same direction.
He added 4 starters if you add a punter. I would say that's a pretty damn good draft class.
Yeah, for sure. And he knew the offensive line was in shambles. And you could say, oh, he had money that he didn't spend last year. Whatever. Like, what offensive lineman did you want? Like, it really would have changed the game. So he takes picks. He traded back even with picks that I didn't think we really even had picks to trade back with. He traded back and took a bunch of shots and on the offensive line and came away with, Braxton Jones isn't terrible. I don't think he's all pro, but good, fine player. I don't know. I think people.
It's just the jury's still out on you mentioned him earlier, Joe, Doug Kramer and Jatir Carter. I mean, these are 2 guys that could still pan out. You had another guy that got picked up by the Rams and Zachary Thomas, which we don't know what's going to happen with him. He was an athletic right tackle that, who knows what would have happened with. So judging a GM off of one, and especially his very first draft class is tough. Obviously, we're going to see what he does with this draft class and how it plays out. Now, he's probably going to take some people that folks don't like or they don't want or whatever. Yes. And they're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah.
Definitely. But yeah, I think that, I really do think that's a huge point is, having 7 picks in the top 137, I think is insane. And just to even this, like, just even kind of comprehend the amount of draft picks the Bears have this year, like, I know they're kind of like dumb and a little bit wonky, but like go on a draft simulator and see how many picks 10 picks actually is and how many players you can add to your team. Like when you're going through them, you'll see guys you recognize in the 4th round that the Bears could grab for either of their lines. So like that alone should help ease people's minds, is the sheer amount of draft capital the Bears have. And Ryan Poles is probably going to try and trade down more. He's probably going to acquire more. I mean, this thing is going to probably be crazy draft weekend. We might come out of this with 12, 13 new players.
Yes. So I think a lot of what you're seeing online is impatience, is the Madden society of, I could have just signed McGlinchey and he's an 88 rating, and I could have signed Orlando Brown and he's an 86 rating, and just plugged him right in. And, I could have just – I just think that's what it comes down to with the general fan. They think in terms of, they don't think of all the complexities that go into it for a guy like Poles making that decision. And so still where I'm sitting, and maybe, you can say, Joe, you're just an optimist. And, this right now, this regime, I've said it before, right now through 14 months or so on the job, this regime hasn't given me any reason not to trust them. I think they've made more often than not the right moves. I mean, I can question some of the 1-year deals brought in at the wide receiver position in last year's free agency class, but mostly and more often than not, I like the direction and at least the thought process that Ryan Poles has adhered to.
Yeah, I think some of this too will come down to, I think, like you said, Joe, last year you're upset about the receivers. This year people are upset about the line. I kind of went on a spiel on Twitter this week about, if you actually dig into what Ryan Poles is trying to accomplish and what he says, you'll understand exactly what he's trying to do, because he doesn't really fluff, whatever he's saying up. He kind of just tells you, like he came out and straight said, there's going to be holes on the roster this year. Okay. Like if you listen to what he says, you really won't be surprised when he doesn't sign players X, Y, and Z, because he's not going to overpay and he's not going to push the limits in free agency. So once you can kind of wrap your head around that and accept that that's how he's going to operate, then when he doesn't sign Orlando Brown or Mike McGlinchey or Jawan Taylor or, your mom's favorite player, then you won't be as upset.
I mean, exactly. It's just patience over time and adhering to process over immediate need. It's going to be our process to accumulate draft. It's going to be our process to let tweener guys like David Montgomery go. It's going to be our process to trade back like we did last year. It's going to be our process not to overpay just because we need, we need a left tackle. Like, so we got to go get, somebody who doesn't fit or isn't, I think so many people just want, I think so many people think that they can do Ryan Poles' job just because, they can punch, they can sit behind a computer. It's way more complicated than that. But I think the process has been good over time. And when I say wide receivers last year, Luke, it's not the lack of signing wide receivers. I didn't like Byron Pringle as being a choice. I just thought, that wasn't a good personal, but that was just my own. I don't like that guy, but I mean, as far as what he did with wide receiver, he went out and got a bunch of cheap ancillary options, and so I like that as far as process goes.
So just to play devil's advocate, I do find the Montgomery money interesting. Like $6 million a year seems fairly reasonable for him. Same with Chauncey Gardner, Johnson, Smith, and Johnson, that guy. $6 million seems pretty reasonable for that guy as well. So I do kind of understand people not understanding why he didn't pick those guys up. But Chauncey Gardner, Johnson, and Johnson, that could have easily been a scheme fit thing, and Eberflus could have been like, hey, it doesn't work, or hey, that guy's an uber douchebag and I don't want him on my team, so don't sign him. Montgomery, he really doesn't fit the zone scheme. I mean, he makes some good plays and he does some interesting things. And it is curious to me why he's never been used more out of the backfield. Like,
Good
I'd be
little
curious
pass
to
blocker.
see him in like a Matt Forte type role, getting like 100 targets a year. That'd be super interesting to me.
Yeah. Good little pass blocker, but just
Mhm.
no breakaway speed.
No, none.
Amazing agility, and I'll always be thankful for play. He always gave 100%.
He is my mom's favorite player because he went to her alma mater. So
So I'm sorry for Mother Krogman.
yeah,
I'll
she
run her
said.
hard. But it'll be all right. I mean, we're up. We ideally are upgrading from David Montgomery. I mean, we forget David Montgomery. I forget who tweeted it or where I saw it. David Montgomery, Bears fans, we gave him first round treatment as a 4th round running back or a 3rd round running back because he was the first pick we had that year, and we all knew we needed a running back. So I think that maybe our expectations for David Montgomery were a little higher than what was realistic, and I think he exceeded what were realistic expectations for. What was he? He was a 4th round pick, wasn't he?
Third. But we as Bears fans do fall in love with mediocre players on a bad team, right? I mean, we idol or
Howard comes to mind.
We lift people up on team. Dude, Anthony Thomas, man, had one good rookie season where he barely broke 1,000 yards, and he was then the shit.
The A train.
The A train. So I get where Bears fans, especially at the running back position, where you just have the history of that position in Chicago. So, Joe, do you think Deontay Foreman is better than David Montgomery?
I think he's going to be closer to a fit from the running back position. I think he's going to be able to hit that edge harder and to explode in the open field. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be as good of a pass blocker. I think Demo was a main pass blocker. I think
I was going to say
right there. Now
we're going to see how good
his
of a
size
pass blocker is. God damn it! It's my fault.
No, you're right. I heard you.
I was going to say we're going to see how good of a pass blocker he is when Tremaine Edmonds blows him up on a blitz next year.
You're right. I think he's a good pass
I also,
blocker.
In defense of Montgomery, I also did not really like how they used him this past year. What you were saying about the scheme fit, I mean, it just seemed like you were fitting a square peg in a round. Like, it just seemed like an odd fit in the offense, and the way they used him was weird. I've always thought the Bears should have used Montgomery more in the past game, and they never really did, so it kind of took his value down here, I think, a little bit, but I agree.
Bye, Monty.
Yep.
Deuces. We'll talk about. I'll touch on a couple other Bears that got shown or signed elsewhere, just for shots and goggles. Brown signed special teamer and sometimes linebacker Matthew Adams from the Bears. That's sad. We're all sad. One that's interesting is we essentially traded Nick Morrow for TJ Edwards. I think we upgraded that one. That's a big 10-4. Eagles did sign Mr. Nicholas Morrow. Other than that, there's not a ton of free agency stuff I wanted to touch on. Lucas, I think you brought this up a little while ago. We've touched on Bears in the hard knocks thing, as they are one of 4 teams that could be forced into hard knocks if a team doesn't step forward and go for it. The other ones are the Jets.
The Jets with Rodgers, man.
Yeah, that's going to be the leader in the clubhouse as long as that deal gets done, which that's kind of cracking me up right now. The Saints and the Commanders, which the Commanders could be another interesting story if Dan Snyder gets kicked out. I don't think that's going to happen fast enough, but that would be super interesting. So Packers, Jets, and Rodgers. Oh my. Who's holding who hostage, and does this ever get resolved?
The Packers are holding him hostage.
Yep.
It will have to get resolved, because if it doesn't get resolved by the first game, the Jets won't have a quarterback, and the Packers will have an old $60 million quarterback and an angry backup.
My favorite thing on Twitter is, and this is outside of Twitter too, I had a coworker who's a Packer fan wanted to bet me dinner that the Packers get a first-round pick for Rodgers.
I think they will.
You think they will?
How could the Jets do that? Unless they can get the first-round pick if the Packers pay almost his full salary.
How can the Packers do that?
I don't know. They'll have to eat a lot of money to get the pick, though. There's no way they'll just give him the pick and the player.
Don't the Packers need the cap relief from the Jets? Ergo, the Jets are not going to give them a premium pick.
I don't know. I've seen so many different things about restructuring his deal, and I just hate the drama. I just talking about this guy makes me angry. He's just such a drama queen. I can't believe he's ruling the offseason again. It's actually fucking unreal.
For the first time, I'm actually like rooting for the organization of the Green Bay Packers to just fuck one of their players over. It's like Brett Favre did the same shit to them. And while I hate them as an organization and what they've done to the Bears for years, watching players just yo-yo a team who clearly wants them, they didn't do like the Bears did to Urlacher and just say, piss the fuck off. They're like, no, please, like, stay, come back. And they did the same thing with Rodgers. So, like, fuck that guy, And then his butt buddy Pat McAfee's making himself look like a douchebag this week. So fuck them all.
Well, the Packers, didn't they come out and say they don't want him this offseason?
Yeah, they don't want him anymore.
Yeah, they last year said they don't.
Last year they did want him. They were sucking his toes for a new deal. That's how he got that massive contract.
Well, and he has come out and said he's going to play for the Jets. So this is essentially like this is what happened with the hockey trade deadline too, is that players basically get to pick where they want to go. Teams accommodate, and they don't get shit back for them. So I don't see the Packers getting a number one for him. Maybe a conditional one, like next year. Like if he does X amount of things and they make the playoffs or whatever, then I could see the Jets giving him a 24 number one, but they're not going to give him 13.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope not. Yeah. Hopefully it gets settled after the draft. So, I don't know. I would say the Packers are holding it up. They're definitely asking for way too much.
Yeah, well, I hope that basically the Packers hold out until after that. Like, you get to the draft and they're like, shit.
I mean, they're kind of at the point where I feel like after you commit to basically not wanting Rodgers, saying it, and then making Jordan Love, kind of passing the torch to him, you can't really go back on that, can you?
No, but you can still continue to ask for compensation.
Right, but like they have I don't know. Who has more to lose, I guess?
I mean, the Packers have to get rid of him to get that money off the books. And it's like,
right, but the Jets literally won't have a quarterback.
Right. So maybe Krugman's right, and they won't end up getting a first round pick. I just have a feeling in my the reason I say that so flippantly, or to say yes, is because I just feel like the Packers are somehow, some way, organizationally come out on top. Now maybe that's just my lifelong. Obviously, it is my lifelong PTSD as a Bears fan. But as you two guys just kind of lay it out, if you're the Jets, you sit there and wait, and you make the Packers deal with their problem.
So I think the Packers should get 13, and then they should use 13 and 15 to move up to number 3 with the Cardinals, and they should take Anthony Richardson to compete with
Oh my
Jordan Love.
God.
That's what I think they should do.
That would be crazy.
Okay.
They need a quarterback.
Play that out. Do you think that would work out well for them? Are you an Anthony Richardson believer?
Hackett with his nuts. MLF would probably make him into a superstar somehow.
I was gonna say I don't want him in the division.
Yeah, just in case it does work out.
Yeah, please, I don't need that.
We don't need another 15 years of a Packers Hall
All
of
right.
Fame.
Well, while we're talking about the draft, Chris, I don't know. Do you have a little header for this? The NFL draft.
Nope. No.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you first.
One.
After free agency, how do you see the Bears? How do you see the draft going at pick 9? What are you kind of thinking? Trade back, best player available. Are they dead set on O-line? What do you think?
I think they are very fluid. I think unless they are in love with somebody that falls there, I think what did polls say he had 7 blue chip guys, including the quarterbacks. So he's hoping one of them falls to him. If one of those guys falls to him, and then pull the trigger. If not, I'm interested to see how he has the next 8 to 20 guys ranked, to see how far back he's willing to drop. Like what's his comfort level? So like if you're in love with these tackles, right? Let's just play it out with that position. Like how far apart are Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, Darnell Wright, and the kid from Arkansas? Because was it Johnson?
They have a center, but he's not a first round pick. The only first round guy would be Skoronski.
Yeah. I don't.
Well, anyway, how different are they? I agree with you, Chris. I mean, I don't think they're that different that like you couldn't trade back into the teens and try and get one of them. I mean, I honestly, that would be my preferred choice if that's the route they want to go. And like you said, those blue chip quote unquote guys are gone, and none of those linemen are blue chip.
Oklahoma. I knew it was a red team.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Anton Harrison.
Yeah. Joe, what are you thinking with pick 9?
Pick number 9, I think the Chicago Bears will trade back and accumulate a pick in the teens or in the low 20s, and I think that's where they will eventually pick.
You think they'll get a first for moving back that far?
If they don't get a first, I think they'll get heavy. I think they'll get pretty significant capital. Is what I'm not smart enough, and I don't know the numbers or the math enough to say, oh, it's worth 10. It's worth 2 first round picks or 3. I don't know what the math equates to, but I do think that Poles trades back again and accumulates even more picks. And with that 20th, say it's 18, 21, somewhere right there. I think you're taking best player available. But I think you're kind of, with that in mind, you're also kind of beholden to a certain number of your needs. I think Chris nailed a lot of it. Is Broderick Jones the Georgia boy?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen him a lot in that range. And Chris is right. It just depends on how closely you have that second tier past that blue chip level. And if you can move from 9 to 18 or 9 to 21 and get one of those next level guys and still come away with a lot of capital for this year or next. I mean, like you said it earlier, Luke, how Ryan Poles said there's going to be holes. I mean, you need capital going forward. You need capital in perpetuity. You can never have enough draft capital. So I think you're going to see him move back and really capitalize off having that first round pick by scooping up some more picks.
We should move down to where are they at? Like 17, 18, and get number 32, 33 back from the Steelers. No, so I think if like 20 is your target, I think you have to get a first next year.
That's great.
Because I think like if you want to move, like, let's say to like 16 with the Commanders, I think, or like even like 11 with the Titans, I think a second in that second round or earlier second round range before you wait until 53 to take your second player.
Right.
Like Lucas touched on it, we have a ton of picks in the top 64 picks. We have 3 picks in the top 64 picks, but 3 of them are in the back, like the bottom 12 of that. So it'd be great to have a earlier second. And my preference would be, if we're going to trade back again, which I'm totally fine with. Unfortunately, there's 2 teams in that range that are in our division with the Packers and the Lions at 15 and 18.
We don't deal with the team in Green Bay.
No, I'm understanding, but they also have good picks at the top of the second round.
We don't give a bleep about that.
So
I'm just kidding.
It would be my preference, if we're going to do that, to get in that second round to get somebody this year. But I would, if we're going to move down to 20, which I'm also okay with, I'd be good with getting a second or a first this year, or first next year, and maybe like a third this year on top of that. Because I think moving down to 20 from 9 that's a jump.
Yeah, it is.
Still get, because right now you're slotted at what, 9 and 53, right? Is your next one's at is 50 something? So I think you need to get more capital between that 20 to 50 range. If you can scoop up, you move back to 9, you move back to 20, excuse me, you move back to 20, and then you get another pick at 32, 30, 38, 41, somewhere, I'm just throwing out numbers here just to say hypothetically. I don't know what teams these would be, but you get that way you have 3 picks in the top 50 instead of you got to hit that number 9 and then wait and see what happens.
Yeah, looking at this draft, I'm trying to kind of figure out who these blue chip guys he might be identifying are, and honestly, I think this draft outside of the quarterbacks is pretty top heavy on defense. So I would imagine his blue chip guys that he would stay at 9 for are all on the defensive side of the ball. And if one of those guys isn't there, which, kind of most, I guess, draft projections have most of these guys being picked in the first 8 picks, well then, yeah, I think it's very likely the Bears will move back. I mean, it sounds like most of the draft community isn't too worried about Jalen Carter falling too far. I'm curious. If he was on the board when the Bears were there, I would imagine I don't know. I feel like they would take him. But I feel like he's going to be picked probably either by Seattle or Detroit.
I agree.
I could see them liking Tyree Wilson at 9 if he was available, and I could see them liking Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback, at 9. But I don't know if any of those offensive linemen are really, like you said, Chris, that different from each other that you would have to stay there and take one of them without trading back.
How many quarterbacks go in the top 10?
I think all 4.
You think so? I think draft nicks and Twitter and everything get enamored with that idea, and then it doesn't happen. Somebody's going to fall out of that. It's probably Richardson or Levis, obviously, but
I'm just basing my idea off how many teams approached the Bears for the first overall pick. I don't know who spilled the info, but it was the Texans were in on it. Obviously, the Panthers, the Colts,
and
the Raiders, which was the surprise one. So I mean, that's 4 teams there, minus a surprise team that could move in from the teens and grab one of them. So I don't know. I think the 4 of them are good enough or have high enough upside that they could all go top 10, kind of like a few years ago, like you said, when we went through those draft classes.
Well, I think it'd be interesting if one of those guys is sitting there at 9.
Yeah.
And somebody like the Commanders wants to come up. What would they offer? I mean, maybe they'd offer a second and a first next year. I don't know. I mean,
you could probably charge him out of the years for the last quarterback available.
Right.
The amount of luck it would take for Ryan Poles to fall on that twice would be insane. The first quarterback taken, and then the last first round one taken.
Dude, that'd be nuts, right? That'd be crazy.
We're an hour into this, but I guess this is a good kind of ending point. I mean, what did you guys think of? I don't know if you've heard the news that kind of came out about the Ryan Poles trading the pick, but I guess there was somewhat of an offer from the Texans on the table that he thought he could have gotten a trade back at 2 and 9, but ended up just taking the Panthers package that included DJ Moore right now. Would you have waited on that? Would you have risked waiting that out longer? Would you have just taken the package? I mean, what do you guys think?
So the problem with all of that entire equation is who the Texans are going to take and if that's the Panthers guy. Because if the Panthers are enamored with either to move up to 1, then yeah, you absolutely can wait that out. Because I don't think them throwing in DJ Moore, which I think is the biggest piece of that, changes any more from 1 to 2, assuming that, let's say they're in love with Stroud and the Texans are in love with Young. The Texans take Young at 1, and then the Panthers are still there to go get Stroud at 2. And it's draft day. The pressure's on. Then the deal is double done, and you get a significant trade from the Texans. I mean, we'll never know. We'll never know what was gonna happen. But like the Panthers couldn't risk that the Texans liked the guy that they wanted to go get at that point. So,
and we got DJ Moore.
So I don't think there's any. We'll never know if it would have panned out any better. But I think they got a very, very fair value for that pick.
And he could still compound that by, like we said, trading back this draft. And then before we dive off here, Joe, I'm going to ask you, what do you make of the Panthers free agency signing Concrete Cleats Thielen and whoever else they signed, Miles Sanders? And tight end, they signed Hayden Hurst too, I think.
Don't you forget the Red Rocket? Didn't they sign Andy Dalton?
And they signed Andy Dalton. Are you worried now, Joe, for the Panthers pick next year? Or do you think they'll still be horrible?
Hayden Hurst and Andy Dalton. There's so much red hair in that offense now. They're going to be on fire.
No, they're going to take CJ Stroud and he's going to get hurt.
Oh, bro, that's
why are you wishing that on him, Joe?
I'm not wishing it on him.
You don't make a prediction like that though, because that's our first round pick next year. Why would you do that?
All right,
you're like sub jinxing us. The fuck?
No. Okay, no, I'm not. Thielen doesn't worry me about being a huge weapon. Hurst is a nice little piece, but Miles Sanders, they need more than Miles Sanders. They need more than Miles Sanders and a rookie quarterback.
They do have a good line though and a good defense. We'll see.
Miles Sanders had a career.
I think Frank Reich is a good coach. And I mean, hell, I don't know. You want to be a top 5 pick.
I more so brought this up as a joke just because some people on Twitter were like, "Well, look out for the Panthers. They're going to be a surprise team this year." And then I saw someone commented. They said, "They're like, I wouldn't even get stopped at the airport for having these weapons."
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Panthers will probably win like 6 games.
Yeah, and they'll give us like the 11th pick or something like that. They'll give us like this. I think
we'll get a top 10. Dude, people forget how bad rookie QBs normally are when they come in the NFL.
Dude, we're gonna have back-to-back picks next year somehow. It's just gonna work out. Like we'll have 7 and 8 or
10
it's
gonna be right
or something.
And then we'll compound that into like 10 more picks.
No, we're just gonna take back-to-back. Do you guys remember? Have you guys ever seen it in your lives or ever remember a team having the first 2 picks in a draft?
No, I don't think it's ever happened.
Oh yeah, it's happened. It's happened a couple of times. So the last time I think was the Indianapolis Colts had the first 2 picks of the draft, and they took a linebacker named Quentin Coriat and a defensive tackle named Steve Empman. And it was early 90s, mid 90s, but yeah.
And they were both horrible.
No, I think they were fairly decent. Quentin Coriat had like a Clowney type play in college where he just absolutely annihilated this receiver over the middle, and that's like you can find that highlight easily today, and that's like his whole thing. But I think Entman was either okay or ended up having like a lot of injury histories, but I don't think it worked out well. But yeah, they took 2 defensive pieces that were supposed to be good, but yeah, first 2 picks in the draft, couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't even imagine. Well,
I feel like it happened a long time ago
the
too.
very first 2 picks were the Bears.
Man,
what would you?
I was gonna say, if
you can't trade them back,
Caleb,
Caleb and Marvin Harrison Jr. like it's a trigger, boom, boom.
Yeah, goodbye, Justin.
Sorry, Justin, you're out. Because that means he was bad. Again.
Yeah, that means we were fucking horrible, dude.
Fucking horrible.
Oh, I just lost.
We're not going to be that bad, Jay.
I can't hear you guys.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Oh my God, could you imagine this offense with like DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams?
Sign one of Mooney or Claypool back, or both of them.
No, they just need to dump any money into whatever Sully wants out of a tackle for that. Then they could do whatever. Love you, Cletus.
Also,
yeah, his internet's trash. Either that or mine is, because we just kept stepping on each other's dicks. So, oh well.
I think it was him.
One of us has to leave.
Oh, Ryan Pohl said he wasn't going to do any extensions until the summer, so we have a few months to look forward to that.
I mean, don't we? I mean, I thought it is known, Lucas. It is known.
He mentioned in his presser that it was coming in July or August. He said he was going to start looking for it. Joe, sing the song. This episode's over.